Hello and welcome to this clip in which we discuss how to prepare the interview meeting as a panel member. The interview meeting is the last stage of the evaluation process. In this video, we discuss how to effectively prepare this meeting, how the meeting itself proceeds, and how consensus scoring and ranking works. Finally, we share instructions on how to prepare feedback reports for the candidates who have been interviewed. In preparation of the interview, please make sure you familiarize yourself with the specific scoring grid for the interview, which differs from the grid used in the pre-selection. The criteria and descriptors for evaluating the project and, if applicable, the level of interdisciplinarity are the same. However, during the pre-selection, candidates are mainly evaluated based on their scientific contributions and their motivation and relevant competences. In the interview phase, the focus shifts towards the assessment of the candidate's competences as a postdoctoral researcher. Indicators are, for example, a thorough insight in the project's research approach and the positioning of the proposed research with respect to the international state of the art. You should challenge candidates on their reasoning skills and critical mindset. Probing their view on their own professional future is also appropriate, as we expect them to have a certain idea of where they would like to take their career. To be able to properly assess the candidate, we ask each panel member to prepare a number of questions that allow you to gauge a candidate's qualities. These questions ideally cover all descriptors that are included in the score grid. During the interview, candidates will present their research by means of a 5-minute elevator pitch. They are instructed to convince you of the added value of the project and to showcase additional achievements they have obtained since submitting their application. You should take these achievements into account in your assessment. After the pitch, it is time for you to ask the questions you have prepared in advance and to challenge the applicant. After this Q&A, the candidate will leave the room and the panel will discuss their assessment, coming up with a final set of scores. Bear in mind that the score grid for the criterion candidate is different from the one used in the pre-selection phase. Consequently, scores from the pre-selection meeting should not be the starting point for the final candidate score. In case candidates are considered equally strong in the interview, scores from the pre-selection may, however, be taken into account to discriminate between applicants' scores. The project score, and for the specific interdisciplinary panel, the score for interdisciplinarity, may also be amended if necessary, but the focus in the interview lies on the candidate. At the end of the interview, the panel will rank the candidates based on the final scores. The highest ranked candidates who meet the minimum criteria, meaning scores of 4 or higher on all sub-criteria, will receive the fellowship directly from the panel. Typically, more candidates meet the minimum criteria than the panel has fellowships available. To these best remaining candidates, we give a wildcard, which means they will be considered for the 10% of the fellowships that are distributed to the best candidates across all panels. Candidates who do not meet the minimum criteria will be rejected. The scientific and administrative chairs will guide the panel through this final stage of the selection process to make sure that all regulations are respected. During the interview, make sure that the questions you ask as a panel cover all sub-criteria of the scoring grid. Test a candidate's knowledge of the state of the art of the topic of their proposal, and for candidates whom you believe deserve top scores, whether they are knowledgeable even outside of their specific field. Don't hesitate to ask non-specialist questions to test the critical mindset of the candidate. Also gauge the candidate's plans for their professional future, and especially for senior postdocs, verify whether they have developed a sound plan to increase their scientific independence during and after their fellowship. Be aware that an interview is a stressful situation for the candidates and that the debate at all moments should remain professional, pleasant, and encouraging. It may, however, be gently provoking to allow you in the end to discriminate between the candidates. The interview itself takes about 15 minutes. At the end of this, you should have a good sense of the candidate and be able to formulate a fair assessment. Don't hesitate to ask challenging questions, but always make sure you do so in a respectful and encouraging manner. The final step of the procedure involves providing feedback to the candidate. As a rapporteur, you should start from your synthesis report, or perhaps from the feedback you already wrote after the pre-selection, and update this with the findings from the interview. We informed you during the earlier steps of the procedure and would like to remind you again that the individual reviews will not be shared with the applicants. Now is the last chance for the rapporteur to include any relevant comments made by the reviewers in the feedback. The feedback report should reflect the panel's final evaluation of the application and should be written in name of the panel. We strongly advise you to make notes during the interview and the panel discussion and to integrate these in your feedback report. From the feedback, candidates should gain insight in the strengths and weaknesses of their application, how the panel reached its final conclusion to fund or not to fund the application, and how the application or the project could potentially be improved with an eye on a resubmission or on carrying out the proposed research. Please be aware that as part of the feedback report, candidates will be informed of the final scores they received in the interview. These scores will be added to the feedback form by FWO and should not be included in your report. Any reference to scores that were assigned earlier on, either by individual reviewers or by the panel during the pre-selection, should be omitted from your feedback report. This concludes this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your account administrator. Many thanks for your attention and goodbye.